Hello students, hope you all are fine. So here Raminder Kaur presenting you the last lecture of chapter number 7, Evolution. As we have studied in the previous parts about various kind of theories such as biological evolution, chemical evolution, and different scientists who put forth their own contributions towards the theories of evolution. For example, Darwin as natural selection, then Lamarck, Hugo de Vries, Hardy Weinberg has proposed his own principle to define the genetic equilibrium, and now we are going to study a brief account of evolution. So, if we talk about millions of years ago, the first cellular life which appeared on Earth. Now, cellular life means because we all organisms, either plants or animals, are made up of basic and fundamental unit of life that is called a cell. It means the cell has also developed from some non-cellular aggregates of such big macromolecules. Now, what are these macromolecules? They can be proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins. So they evolve with membranous envelope, but it is still not known that how those proteins, amino acids, urea, nucleic acids, how they combine and develop into a cellular structure. So some of these cells, they had ability to release oxygen. Sketch of evolution plant forms through geological periods. Here geological periods means earlier, like now 2020 is there. So earlier there were different time zones, like you can see on the left side, Paleozoic, Mesozoic era, Cenozoic era. Like we generally say, dinosaurs appear in Jurassic time. So similarly, these time zones, they help us to find out that how living entities they have evolved. This table is very important because it provides us the ancestor relationship of different kind of plants. It could be phylum Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So if you say which kind of question could come in this, they can ask you, write down the ancestor of angiosperms. So you can see on the right hand side top, angiosperms flowering plants are written. So if we look upon, they have evolved from seed ferns. Seed ferns have evolved from progymnosperms. It means all the phylums, they are moving stepwise, like we say the phylums in animals. So these divisions in plants, they have also evolved from the pre-existing life forms. So the number one ancestor was chlorophyte ancestors. Then tracheophyte. Tracheophyte ancestors had developed into Rhynia type plants, and then Xylophyton. And then you can see they are evolved into different other categories. If you see the branching between chlorophyte and tracheophyte, they are developing into bryophytes. So bryophytes are those which are called as amphibians of plant kingdom, which can grow either on the land or inside the water. So this growth has started from Carboniferous era of Paleozoic time zone. Then let's talk about the second ones, that is between tracheophyte and Rhynia type plants. So these were Zoosterophyllum. These were the kind of plants which ultimately given rise to some of the arborescent lycopods and herbaceous lycopods. So you can see they look like ferns. But they are not ferns because here again the vascular bundle has just developed. Vascular bundle means xylem and phloem has just developed, and still they are not differentiated properly into roots, shoot and other leaf-like structures. Now if we look upon Xylophyton, so they have developed not only to the cycads or coniferous but even to horsetails such as sphenopsids. Then number 2, ferns. Then number 3, ginkgos. Number 4, conifers. Number 5, nettles. And then if we talk about progymnosperms, they have ultimately changed into seed ferns. Why seed ferns are given? Because seeds have started forming in them. Earlier, there were no seed formation, but from these progymnosperms, the very first species which have started given rise to seeds, they have formed. From these seed ferns, cycads have formed. And ultimately, the complex type of flowering plants, which are angiosperms, some can be monocots and other can be dicotyledons. This can be better explained from here. So this is a better picture from which you will understand. So you can see ancestral eukaryote. All of you know prokaryote and eukaryote differences. If we want to differentiate these, prokaryotic organisms are those which do not have well-defined nucleus, and even their organelles are not covered by membranes. But if we talk about all other kingdoms except Monera, everybody comes under eukaryote, either plants, animals, fungus or protist. So you can see at the first stage, green algae comes. So green algae comes under phylum Thallophyta. Then brown and red algae. So ultimately these liverbirds form, then mosses, then ferns, cycads and conifers, then ginkgos and gnetophytes, monocots, and ultimately dicots. So how these ladder-like structure appears? Because one by one the characters which were more complex, they started adding. So the addition of characters lead to more complexity, and this is known as evolution in plants. So this you have to remember, how the unicellular organisms converted into multicellular. Then they include the ability to regulate water loss, means the transpiration which is taking place through the stomata of the leaves, it has to be regulated because it is a cooling effect. As we are sweating, so we are drinking water. Similarly, the transpiration is maintained or regulated by absorption of water through the roots. Then vascular tissue has started forming, then roots started developing better so that root hairs can easily take up minerals as well as water. Then gametophyte protection and seed formation, then fruits have started forming, then flowers, because we say angiosperms are the flowering plants, and ultimately in dicotyledonous secondary growth takes place. I hope you remember secondary growth, where cambium start dividing and give rise to a protective tissue so that wood can be generated. So as we have studied that some of the cells, they were having a power so that they can release oxygen. So it is almost similar like in plants, when water splits up, it gives rise to oxygen which we all are inhaling and surviving. So the plants, they started taking the capacity to capture the solar energy, means light energy, and then converting it into chemical energy. So ultimately unicellular organism, they become multicellular, and by the time 500 Maya, invertebrates formed and they were active. Then jawless fish probably evolved around 350 Maya. This you have to just remember for the knowledge purpose. Then seaweeds and few plants, they were existed around 320 Maya, and first organisms which were present, they were plants. Because all the creatures that existed earlier on the earth, all of them were aquatic in nature. But as they came on the terrestrial or the land side, they were the plants. So they widespread, and when animals invaded land, so earlier they were plants. Fish with the strong fins, they could move on land and go back to water. Means they started developing the capacity so that reptiles could be formed. Because we have seen the crocodiles, tortoise, then turtle, all of these, they can live on land. So this means the class Pisces, they have developed into reptiles. First of all amphibians and then into reptiles. Then in 1938, there was a fish which caught in South Africa, happened to be coelacanth. This is very important question according to NEET competitive exam also, which was thought to be extinct. So coelacanth is a kind of fish that is caught in South Africa. So what was the characteristic feature of these kind of fishes? That these animals called low fins evolved into they were the first amphibians that can live both on land and water. So there are no specimens of these left with us because they got extinct. However, these were ancestors of modern day frogs and salamanders. Why we are coelacanth? Because they have the ability to both live on land as well as in the water. So ultimately, first of all, class Pisces has converted or evolved into class amphibians, and then it has ultimately evolved into reptiles. Now, what is a characteristic feature of reptiles that we can say that they have developed from amphibians? They lay thick shelled eggs. They have a calcium carbonate layer around their eggs so that they should not dry up in the sun, because they do not lay eggs in the water. Reptiles lay eggs on the land. Again, we will say in the modern day descendants, turtles, tortoises and crocodiles, they are the same. They are coming under the category which are laying the eggs ultimately on the land. So in the next 200 million years or so, reptiles of different shapes and sizes dominated on Earth. Now, giant ferns, which are pteridophytes, they were present, but they all fell to form coal deposits slowly, because ultimately they will give rise to fossil fuel. Some of these land reptiles, they went back into water. Why we are saying back into water? Because some of them started evolving again into the aquatic life. So that were called as fish-like reptiles. So you can see the very first picture. This is a picture of ichthyosaurs. So this is a species of reptiles which went back into water. So they were having fish-like reptiles. The land reptiles, they were of course the dinosaurs. The reptiles, they have converted into birds. So this is the second picture, belongs to Tyrannosaurus rex. So this is the biggest of all the dinosaurs. So it is about 20 feet in height and huge, fearsome dagger-like teeth. Dinosaurs, they disappeared suddenly from the earth. Still we are finding out the reasons. Some are saying that were the climatic changes, or some were saying there was a lack of food. So truth may live in between. We do not know, but they have given us one parameter of evolution, that how these reptiles, they have evolved into birds. So small size reptiles of that era still exist today. Now the next picture, you can see the very first mammals. They were like shrews. Their fossils are small sized. Mammals are generally viviparous, means they give birth to young ones and they protect their unborn young one inside the womb of the mother. So that fetus get protected inside. So mammals are the most intelligent. So if I talk about all the classes of vertebrata or chordata, so that starts from number 1 class, Pisces, number 2, amphibians, number 3, reptiles, number 4, aves, and number 5, mammals. So mammals are coming at the last top level. So they were more intelligent in sensing, as well as they can avoid the danger. At least when reptiles came down, mammals took over this earth. So it was in South America. So mammals were resembling horse, hippopotamus, bear, rabbit. But there was continental drift, that animals started moving from one place to another, either you can say in search of food, in search of mating. So when South America joined with North side, so these animals, they were overridden by North America fauna. Fauna means animals. So during this, we have seen kangaroos. These are called as drift-pouched animals of Australia. They survived only in Australia. Why they have not moved into other continents? Because there was lack of competition in Australia. So they survived there. Lest we forget, some mammals live wholly in water. Yes, we have seen so many whales, dolphins, seals, and sea cows. So mammals have so many varieties. We can say biodiversity can be seen in mammals. Some are living on land, some are flying like bats, so some are living in water. So evolution of horse, elephant, dog, etc. all of these are also mammals. So this is also a story of evolution. So before studying the evolution of man, let's talk about the evolution of different kind of animals. This figure 7.10, they have represented that how the vertebrates, they have evolved through different geological periods that can be starting from, so these are in Mayas, M-Y-A, million years ago. I'm repeating, Maya, M-Y-A means million years ago. So 350 Maya to 300, the geological time is called as Carboniferous. Then between 300 to 250 million years ago, the time period is called as Permian. Then between 250 to 200, it is called as Triassic. Then 200 to 150 million years ago, the time period is called as Jurassic. Then similarly 150 to 100 million years ago, the time period is called as Cretaceous, ultimately Tertiary and Quaternary. So if we say the very common ancestors, they were called early reptiles. So they are extinct now. Then they have developed into sauropsids and synapsids. And ultimately they have formed sometimes thecodonts, then pelycosaurs, then therapsids. You can see the differentiating features, the characteristic features they differentiate. Then dinosaurs, they appear in Cretaceous to Tertiary period. Then ultimately they have given rise to turtles, lizards, snakes, tortoises, crocodiles, birds, and ultimately mammals they have developed. You can better understand from this. As you see at the first time, the sun ignites. So sun was like a ball of fire. So at that time, no life was existing. Then earth came into existence. After earth, moon came into existence. Now you can see prokaryotes. You can see where prokaryotes are written cells without nuclei. It does not mean nuclei. It should be written cells without nuclear membrane. So you can see any kind of bacteria, either archaebacteria, eubacteria. Then afterwards, oxygen came into existence. Means some of the cells of these organisms, they started releasing oxygen. Photosynthesis has started taking place. And then eukaryotes, they started coming. Eukaryotes mean the cells with nuclear membrane. And then bacteria, protozoans, fungi, and then which kind of organisms started coming? The different kind of invertebrates. So that involves all the different kind of phylums such as Porifera, Coelenterata, then crustaceans, then arthropods, mollusca, all the different kind of worms. Then we came to the vertebrates. So very first vertebrate were the fishes. Then they were replaced by different amphibians. After amphibians, they came the different reptiles such as dinosaurs. Then replaced by birds, then mammals. And then you can see that flowers and bees, they started coming. And then the evolution of man taken place. Now let's talk about the last topic of this chapter, and even interesting one, origin and evolution of man. So about 15 million years ago, primates, one Dryopithecus and Ramapithecus, they were existing. So what were the characteristic features of these two primates? They were having hairs on their body. They walked like gorillas and chimpanzees. Now Ramapithecus, they were more man-like, while Dryopithecus, they were more ape-like. So it means we can say the evolution of Ramapithecus came from Dryopithecus. So some fossils were obtained in Ethiopia and Tanzania. Then these revealed that there were some characteristics near 3 to 4 million years ago, and these kind of primates, they walked in Eastern Africa. So if the question comes, so from where the evolution of man has started, so the answer will be Africa. So they were probably not taller than 4 feet, but they can walk upright. About 2 million years ago, Australopithecus probably lived in East African grasslands. So what evidences it has been shown that they were hunting with some weapons. So these weapons could be stone, but they were depending only upon the fruit diet. So some of the bones they were discovered, they were little bit different. So these creatures, they were called as the first human-like being, the hominid, means human-like creatures. They were called as Homo habilis. In the picture you can see the Homo habilis, they little bit look like chimpanzees, as the face and the head is not similar as we are today. So average height was 4 feet 3 inches. Disproportionately long arms were there. You can see how the long arms, they are reaching till the knees. But as you say Homo erectus, as we are today, they are shorter and slender arms, and average height is 5 feet 10 inches. Right? So brain capacity, that was found 650 to 800 cranium capacity. So cranium means related with the brain. So they probably did not eat meat. So they were vegetarian, we can say. Fossils discovered in Java in 1891, that has evolved, that next stage has come, that is Homo erectus. That is about 1.5 million years ago. They were having the good brain capacity, that is 900 cc. You can see in this figure 7.11. They have done the comparison of different skulls of modern human being, baby chimpanzee and adult chimpanzee. So the skull of baby chimpanzee is more like adult human skull than adult chimpanzee skulls. So if we talk about this graphical representation, this gives you a better understanding that how our ancestors, which are Dryopithecus africanus is given because they have evolved from Africa, because fossils were discovered from Africa, that's why species name is Africanus. Dryopithecus, they were looking more like apes, so they appeared 20 to 25 million years ago. Then they evolved into Ramapithecus, so they evolved 14 to 15 Maya. Then Australopithecus, they were 5 million years ago and brain capacity 350 to 450. Then Homo habilis, they were appeared in 2 million years ago and they were first fossil man who used various kind of weapons or tools of different stones, and the brain capacity was nearly 735 cranium capacity. Then evolved Homo erectus, who have started walking erect. That's why this species name has been given. 1.7 million years ago, and the very good brain capacity, that is 800 to 1100 cranium capacity. Then came Homo sapiens fossils. These were 34,000 years ago, and 1650 cranium capacity is the brain capacity, and ultimately the modern man, which is called as Homo sapiens sapiens. Why sapiens is given twice? Because this is called as a subspecies. So they appeared 25 years ago and their brain capacity is 1300 to 1600 cranium capacity. Because probably they ate meat. Then Neanderthal man was with the brain size 1400 cc's and they lived in East and Central Asia nearly 1 lakh to 40,000 years back. So they were having a capacity that they can hide themselves, they can escape from any danger, and even they can bury the dead bodies. So they were having this consciousness that they have to bury the dead ones. Then Homo sapiens, they arose in Africa and then they moved into different continents. That's why different races of humans are appearing everywhere on the earth. During Ice Age, that is 75,000 to 10,000 years ago, modern humans appear, that is Homo sapiens. Prehistoric cave art, that has developed about 18,000 years ago. It means when humans were developing, they have started the development of the paint, of the art. One such cave painting by prehistoric humans can be seen at Bhimbetka Rock Shelter in Raisin district of MP. Agriculture practices, they came around 10,000 years back, means it is still very modern, and human settlement started, that we have started taking our own residential area, we have started owning the land, and then we started thinking about our future. The rest of what happened is a part of human history of growth and decline of civilization. So if you look upon your right hand side, there is a differences which are given among Neanderthal and modern man. So if I read it, we can see that this information that these kind of humans, they were using stone as a tool, they were hunters and they were using fire. So it is showing that how Neanderthals and modern humans, they were the same. So these were the fossils of Neanderthals which have evolved from Africa, and it has given us the basic understanding. So this was about the chapter evolution. Hope you have understood everything, and in the comment section I have posted different kind of questions and you will get one assignment also under this lecture. Thank you so much.